In National Geographic's recent documentary, Virus Hunters, an American band of researchers risked their lives in search of bats carrying Ebola in an abandoned mine shaft. One professor in the movie acknowledges how the researchers risked their lives due to the exposure to aerosolized urine, feces, and bat blood, which they're exposed to when they kill the animals in the anti-outbreak efforts. But as the Intercept's investigative reporter Sharon Lerner writes, it's not clear how spending a robust amount of research dollars on tracking down virus-infected wildlife in remote locations and then bringing them into labs has helped us prepare for our current crisis. Some scientists warn that any ongoing pursuit of deadly viruses that have yet to infect people may actually be more likely to set off the next pandemic and could have, in fact, led to this one. Sharon Lerner joins us now to expand on this. Welcome.
Me. Hi.
And so what led you to explore this particular story? Because I found it a fascinating way to tie together a lot of different threads that have been out there in various places, but that haven't been connected in one place.
Yeah, well, a lot of the discussion of origins of the pandemic has focused recently on gain of function research, which is, and I've been on the show to talk about that. And that's the kind of, dangerous research where you're tweaking viruses, making mutant viruses and enhancing them. And we had actually done this FOIA of NIH that produced documents that showed that that under a grant provided by NIAID, the EcoHealth Alliance was involved in that kind of research. And we wrote about that. But through that FOIA, we actually received a ton of other documents showing the kind of breadth of research that was involved in that grant and in many others that EcoHealth Alliance received and other groups have received from various agencies that are trying to characterize kind of the universe of potentially dangerous viruses out there. And as I began to talk to scientists about this, I realized, these particular experiments that we wrote about, they do present a risk and a real risk that is important to talk about. But there's actually a huge range of dangers that this kind of research entails. And I wanted to kind of dig into it and acknowledge that, while we're kind of still trying to figure out what happened leading up to this pandemic and what happened we've now kind of focused in on this one particular grant, this one particular experiment, to kind of realize that we're still funding this research all over the world. We've actually increased our funding for it. And we should be thinking not just about how the origins of this particular pandemic, but whether this ongoing research presents risks as we move forward.
How much recognition is there from government officials that there are risks to doing this? It's one thing for them to say, well, there are risks, but we think it's worth it. It's another to just pretend there aren't any risks or to downplay them or to keep the public misinformed about them.
So how much concern is being expressed within these agencies? It's hard to say. NIH didn't respond to us for this story. But you can tell within the communications that we received through our FOIA that there's both concern, and they're trying to carry out the law by basically, they're required to monitor the biosafety of these projects. But it's also clear from the communications that they're failing to do that. So we have these emails that show that in 2021, in the summer of 2021, so not long ago, a few months ago, NIH is still trying to get documents to figure out what was going on under this bat coronavirus grant in terms of biosafety in Wuhan in 2019. So we're 2 years into the pandemic and they're saying, wait, what happened? And we're still trying to get audits and monitoring, biosafety reports and all these things that they don't end up getting. And you can tell from this exchange that, the NIH official whose name is Lauer says to Peter Daszak, who's the president of EcoHealth Alliance, he says, look, if you don't provide these documents, we're entitled to withhold funding from you, but that doesn't happen. And in fact, EcoHealth Alliance got another grant to do very much the same research. So on the one hand, they're saying, we're going to try to pursue this. And I should say that that HHS did launch an audit on the very same day that they released funding for the new grant to EcoHealth Alliance. They also launched an audit into the oversight of this grant, which, as far as I know, has not been concluded.
I mean, they wouldn't really have any motivation, actually, to research this too much, right? They don't really want to link the pandemic back to some scientific research, because scientists love their research, their labs, their experiments, and I don't think they're really inclined to find evidence to potentially then shut it down. My question is, why are these scientists going after these bats? What are they hoping to look for? I mean, we know about Ebola. Are they trying to are there not enough samples in a lab and they need another sample in a lab, or what are they doing?
So there are kind of two main justifications for this that you see in the grant applications. One of them is, we need to know what's out there so we can prepare, so we can kind of look and see where the hotspots are. The idea is to map out the potential universe of unknown viruses, figure out where the hotspots are, and prevent the jump from wildlife into humans. And the idea is that somehow we can use this information to make drugs and vaccines. And the other justification, before I go on to undermine or, calling into question that one, is, and this is sort of more a sotto voce kind of justification, is sort of the biodefense justification. And I should note that a lot of this funding comes from the Department of Defense, or it comes from NIAID, which is part of NIH, but as in an effort to prevent bioterrorism. And the idea is that, look, if someone is going to be doing this research and finding these incredibly dangerous viruses, well, we should know about it, and essentially it should be us, as opposed to another country that might use it against us.
Right, and so then go ahead. What's wrong with the first argument? You were gonna cut that to pieces.
Right. What I was gonna say is that we have seen that it didn't prepare us in terms of, collecting lots and lots of information about basically every potentially dangerous virus that is out there. First, is a massive undertaking. And second, the viruses are constantly emerging. It's virtually impossible to keep up with that. But what most of the scientists said to me, the reason it's impossible, is very almost impossible for it to be useful, is that there are just too many viruses. So if you get, you're going to sequence thousands and thousands of viruses, you have this information, you don't know which one to prepare a vaccine for or prepare a drug for. And what's more, you're not going to actually prepare a vaccine for something that hasn't infected people yet, because that involves testing on people, and you wouldn't put them at that risk if it isn't, already in people. And the other thing that researchers pointed out to me, is that, if we can show the ineffectiveness of predicting and preventing pandemics, in that this work was underway in Wuhan, the very place where the pandemic emerged. So here they are, focusing on this very thing in Wuhan, and were unable to prevent or predict the pandemic that emerged right there.
Right. So at the very best, they were unable to prevent it, and at worst, their research actually produced it.
Exactly.
Not ideal.
Yeah.
Not ideal at all. Sharon, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And we'll have more Rising right after this.